What's next for the Twins in the Carlos Correa sweepstakes is Trea Turner signs an 11-year, $300 million deal with the Philadelphia Phillies. Plus, reports come out today from Dan Hayes at The Athletic that the Twins are open to trading Luis Arraez. Let's break it all down on today's episode of Locked On Twins.
You are Locked On Twins, your daily Minnesota Twins podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome to the Locked On Minnesota Twins podcast. Today is Monday, December 5th, and I'm your gracious host, Nash Walker. Thanks for making Locked On Twins your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. On the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Again, this is Nash Walker, 3 seasons hosting a daily show on the Minnesota Twins, 4 seasons writing about the Minnesota Twins at twinsdaily.com. And I'm coming to you in the heart of the winter meetings with a crazy day. No Twins transactions. No Twins alleged agreements with any free agents, but plenty of rumors, plenty of reports, and one signing that could impact the Twins, and that's Trea Turner signing with the Phillies for 11 years and $300 million. Let's start with that. Trea Turner to the Phillies. This is something I've opined really all offseason up to this point. Turner to the Phillies doesn't really change much on the Correa front. Trea going to Philly. I figured they would be a player in this market. I guess it's a good thing that they didn't sign Correa, but Turner wanted to be out east. That was the report all along. He's from Florida, spring training in Florida, all of it lined up for the Phillies, who just won the pennant. They give Trea Turner 11 years and $300 million. That was somewhat predictable, that signing, I think. We know that in this shortstop market, there are the Phillies, the Giants, the Cubs, the Dodgers, the Braves, the Twins, and then you have some under-the-radar teams could get involved. The D-backs reported today, John Morosi says they're a serious suitor for Xander Bogaerts. The St. Louis Cardinals reported today, I think also John Morosi, could get involved on the shortstop market. The needle the Twins have to thread here if they want to retain Carlos Correa, which everything we've heard at the winter meetings, everywhere, all these rumors, they love Correa. They want to keep him. They had dinner with him Saturday night in the LA area, just working really hard to try to keep him maybe outside of the actual money offer, which is the most important thing. If they want to thread this needle, they can't have random teams coming in and swooping up these free agents. They really can't. They need it to go in a really certain way. And that's why it's unlikely they're going to sign Correa. It remains unlikely they're going to sign Carlos Correa because they need it to go step by step in order. I think it would really help them. This is like almost like a tournament bracket. If you're an underdog in a bracket of a tournament, if you're like, let's look at March Madness, and you are the 12 seed in March Madness, you're opening up against the 5. You beat the 5 seed, that happens all the time, but you're hoping that the 1 seed gets upset somewhere because it's going to be very hard to beat that 1 seed. It happens in March Madness, and it could happen with Correa and the Twins, but you're hoping they get upset somewhere so you get a better matchup and a more favorable situation. For the Twins, I think the 1 seed getting beat is the Giants signing Aaron Judge. Because to me, it's much more likely the Giants would sign Correa than the Yankees would to sign Correa. That's just my feeling on the situation. The Yankees could sign Correa, but I think they could have signed Correa last year, and their shortstop situation is different in their system. You know, Anthony Volpe's coming, a shortstop prospect, one of the best prospects in baseball. I think that's into the calculus here for the Yankees. They're reportedly pursuing Carlos Rodon pretty hard. It's the Yankees. They can do whatever they want. If they miss out on Judge, they could absolutely pivot to Carlos Correa. But to me, it's more likely the Giants pivot to Correa. We've heard reports Crawford would move to third to sign Correa. If Judge goes to San Francisco, I think that's a key domino for the Twins, and you're just hoping the Yankees stay out of it. But even then, like you still have to win that favorable situation. You're fighting off a lot of different factors. You're dodging bullets, as they say here, and that's the reality. I mean, if the Twins aren't going to step up with the best offer, which they're unlikely to do so, you need other things to fall into place. You need this to happen, that to happen, to lead to this and this and this. And then all of a sudden it boils down to you and you are the team, or maybe one of 2 or 3 teams, and he chooses your offer over the others because he's not leaving too much money on the table, right? That's what the Twins need here. They need those things to go in place. And I think one of the biggest dominoes is Judge. Correa's waiting for Judge. I think it's clear. And I said that last week. I think Correa's waiting for Judge. I think he's waiting more for Judge than he is for Turner, because whoever loses the Judge sweepstakes, you would think would step up with a huge offer for Correa. You can almost say, hey, here's our offer. We offered Aaron Judge. Why don't we give it to Carlos Correa? Not always that simple, not guaranteed to happen. I think Correa and Boris are hoping it happens that way. I think that's the way that they're looking at this. The Red Sox are also in the shortstop market. There's like 8 to 10 teams viable teams for now 3 shortstops in Bogart, I guess maybe 7 to 9 now in Bogarts, Correa, and Swanson. And we'll see how it plays out. The Twins, I mean, Rocco Baldelli was on today, seemed like optimistic. I think they are going to try their best in terms of, that relationship with Correa. But at the end of the day, it's a business. It's about money. And Trea Turner made $300 million, and you think Correa is going to take less than that? It's still possible. I think my prediction's going to stay. I'm going to stay with my prediction, although I'm not as confident in it that Correa signs for less than $300 million, because now Trea got $300. You bet your bottom dollar Boris and Correa, I don't think they're going to stop until they get a better offer than that. Like, I think they will take this thing into February if they don't get a $300 million offer. I think Correa and Boris believe that he's better than Turner. And I also think they believe, or they know, that he's younger than Trea Turner, and he's 28 in his prime. And I don't think they're going to take less than 300 at this point in time. And my whole thing last week was the Twins need to sign him early. This needs to happen quickly for them. They can't afford to wait because they have other moves they want to make. They have money to spend. These guys are going to fly off the board. It's a really, really hot market. What else is going on in the winter meetings? Carlos Rodon linked to the Twins, continues to be. Christian Vasquez linked to the Twins. And then maybe the biggest headline of the day, Dan Hayes dropping a bomb that the Twins are open to trading batting champion Luis Arraez. What does it all mean? Coming up after this word from betonline.net. Betonline.net is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there. From football to basketball to soccer and esports, we've got it all at betonline.net. And if you love sports podcasts, you can find those at betonline as well. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline is where the game starts. It's very easy to use. Of course, on the desktop, always has been, but on the mobile, it's easy to use. It's a mobile-friendly platform at betonline.net. And I know in today's day and age, we use our phones for everything, and you can use your phone to play at betonline.net. It's your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. You can get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from football to basketball to soccer, whatever you're looking for. BetOnline.net is where the game starts. Twins linked to Carlos Ordon, continue to be linked to Carlos Ordon. I could end up being wrong with my proclamation yesterday that he's not going to be here, but I'll take my odds. I don't think Carlos Rodon's going to be a Twin. But Lavelli Neal dropped a piece tonight linking them again to Carlos Ordon and saying, I think maybe the Twins are trying for Correa and Rodon, and the courting of Rodon is part of their pitch to Correa, because everything we've heard is Correa wants to win. He wants to play for a winner. And if that's the case and he signs with the Cubs, then that was not, was that really legit? I don't think so. Because the Cubs, I'm not saying the Twins have this great team or anything like that, but the Cubs are in the middle of a rebuild. And if he signs there and his main priority is to win, those two things do not coincide. I don't know if that's actually his motivation, but it sounds like it is. And in that case, the Twins would definitely benefit from saying, hey, we're in this market. We're in this market. We're trying to swing this trade. We're trying to do this. We're trying to really improve this team around you. If you come and play for us and you commit to us long term, we're gonna try to our best to build a winner around you. We're gonna bump payroll. We're gonna make aggressive moves. We're gonna get in this market for high risk, starting pitchers. We're gonna make those changes because we want to commit to you. And if you want to win, like, we're gonna do whatever we can to raise our ceiling for 2023 and beyond. If that's the case, yes, they will stay in the Carlos Rodon sweepstakes. My whole thing with Rodon is there's so many teams interested in him. It's such a wide, large market. You can win the bidding. But are we talking about $160, $170 million payroll for the Minnesota Twins in 2023? I would jump with joy on this show. I would love to come on and say The Twins are running a $165 million payroll. They got Correa, they got Ordon, they got Christian Vasquez, and they're ready to go. And this is going to be fun. Let's see how it goes. I would love to do that. So the Twins linked to Carlos Ordon, linked to Christian Vasquez, who I think, as a catcher to share time with Ryan Jeffers makes a lot of sense. Good defender. Has hit in the past at Fenway. Didn't really hit in 2022, especially in Houston, but well-regarded defender. Caught for the Astros in the World Series and through the playoffs and was absolutely tremendous behind the plate. Astros, they pitch really well. I mean, they have great pitchers, but I think Vasquez was a part of that. He would be a nice, stable force, I think, for the Twins behind the plate with Ryan Jeffers. Those are the main things today on who the Twins are linked to. Keep an eye on Rodon, keep an eye on Correa, keep an eye on Bogarts, keep an eye on Vasquez, and there's more I'm sure they have their toes dipped into here at the winter meetings on the free agent market. Biggest Twins news of the day, though, that came out mid-ish day from Dan Hayes, that the Twins are open to trading Luis Arraez. This is so interesting. This is so intriguing to me, and I tweeted this out because when I see this report, when you see a report, this is like my journalistic mind thinking, my journalism background and degree, I'm thinking, who benefits from dropping this report? Why would this leak? Who leaked this and why? What do they stand to gain from leaking this? And to leak that the Twins are open to trading Luis Arraez, who does that benefit? In what way could it benefit anybody? And the main things I came up with are, number one, you're softening the blow. So you're letting the fan base know early, hey, we're prepared to deal Luis Arraez. We're prepared to trade him. And I'll get to the parameters of trading him and what that would mean for this team. We're open to trading Luis Arraez, and we want to let you know early. And we're going to try to soften this as much as we can because we know he's a fan favorite. We know he's beloved. We're thinking about it. We're dropping this report. Consider this a warning that it's coming, right? Or that it's very likely to come. Nothing's set in stone, but we are shopping him actively, and the fan base needs to be ready. Let's leak this out. Number two is extension leverage. If you're trying to extend Luis Arraez, the number one thing you do in extension leverage is leak that you're trading him. That you want. If someone wants to stay, they did this with Buxton, and I don't know if they necessarily did it strategically, but there were reports emerging that the Twins were ready to trade Buxton, if not at the deadline last year, shortly after the season, in the winter before he signed the extension, which was right around this time. If somebody wants to stay, like Byron wanted to stay in Minnesota, if somebody wants to stay and you're not closing on an extension and you're not coming to a compromise, you float that you might trade them. And then they go, ooh, I don't want to be traded. I would rather stay. I'll take a lesser figure. That's a posturing move. So those are my top two. Is it, and then my number three would be just a nothing burger. It leaked out. They're open to it. They're open to trading anybody. It's not a big deal. And that's absolutely in play here. It could totally be number three because there's nobody should be untouchable, right? You're open to trading everybody, I think, and you answer calls. That's your job as a front office. I think it's most likely number one. I do. I think it's most likely that this is a softening the blow PR move for the Twins to leak this. And I'm not saying Dan is getting duped here or anything. He's doing a great job. He does his job. He gets these reports. He gets these scoops. He is amazing. I think there's strategy behind these things, though, and especially with the Twins, who are very, very tight with information, very tight with their info, with their moves. Oftentimes, we didn't even hear a peep about Sonny Gray. We didn't hear a peep about Josh Donaldson. We didn't hear a peep about Carlos Correa. These things happen fast, and usually with the Twins, they happen quietly. And that's why I think this is so weird with Luis Arraez to drop this right now. So I think about it that way. I think you should too. If you have any other ideas, put them in the comments and let me know what you think, or reach out to me on Twitter at @NashWalker9. Let me know. But I think it's softening the blow of a potential trade. So Luis Arraez has 3 years left of team control. And this is something we've highlighted quite a bit so far. I'm going to pull up on YouTube. You can see this is the current depth chart for the Twins. I do not have Kyle Farmer at short because that is bad vibes. We're not putting him at short. We're going to put him on the bench where he belongs. Kyle Farmer is on the bench with Nick Gordon, Kyle Garlick, and Trevor Larnach. But when you look at this team, you have Kirilloff in left field. Now, they traded away Gio Urshela. You have Polanco at second. Luis Arraez is at first. You know you're going to have to cycle Byron Buxton through the DH spot. The main goal in trading Luis Arraez, and I opined as well that I thought they would trade Jorge Polanco if they were to trade any of them, is you have a lot of left-handed bats who can play first base. I think they want Kirilloff to play first base. I do. I think they want him to be there. And if that's the case, they don't want him in left field. They'd rather have him at first. Luis Arraez is then floating. Polanco is at second. If you want Polanco, he's your second baseman. DH is going to be that rotating door with Buxton, with Larnach, with Kirilloff, with Miranda, with Farmer, with Gordon, with a lot of guys. I don't think they're going to have a set DH. So a clear roster move here, taking away everything else, from Louis as a person, as a player, what he means to this team. If you're just looking at it from here's our roster, it would be Kirilloff to first, which opens up left field for Trevor Larnach or an addition of a right-handed bat like Mitch Haniger. Kirilloff to first, you trade Luis Arraez, that opens up the DH spot, and there's more flexibility on the roster. And in tow, Dan Hayes reporting, the Twins would get or would be seeking frontline starting pitching in a trade of Luis Arraez. I love this timing because if you listen to yesterday's show, I went over some starters I think could be available via trade, and my conclusion was I don't know if there's that many great frontline starters available for trade. There are some, like Zach Gallen, Brandon Woodruff, I think maybe, the reports are that he's not available, but you never know. They say guys are not available. They're not trading guys all the time. Woodruff, Gallen, it would have to be someone like that. If they were to package up Luis Arraez in a Pablo Lopez deal, I would be disappointed. And I'm not a Pablo hater. But if you're going to trade Luis Arraez, you need to be getting legitimate frontline starting pitching. Legit, not a question if they're a number one, in my mind. They got to be a bona fide number one starter. Not an ace, but a bona fide number one starter. Brandon Woodruff, I think, absolutely fits that bill. I don't know if he's an ace, but he's absolutely a frontline number one starter. Has to be somebody like that. I don't think Luis Arraez is going to net you a Brandon Woodruff 1-for-1, but he is a very valuable trade chip because he has 3 years of team control. He just won the batting title. He gets on base. He can play multiple positions. He's a spark plug at the top of any lineup, and he can plug right in for a team like the Brewers. They just traded Colton Wong off of second base. You could plug Luis Arraez right in at second base for the next 3 seasons. And Milwaukee's always in this zone of we're not rebuilding, we're retooling, we're going to make some changes. That's the type of deal I think you would trade Luis Arraez in. But that's just the business part of this. The personal side of this is Luis Arraez is awesome and he's beloved. And there is not I've never met a Twins fan who doesn't love Luis Arraez. I never have. And I can't say that about any other Twin really at all. I have not met a Twins fan. So seldomly do you read or hear or see negative things about Luis Arraez. It's so seldom. And the reason is he's a great baseball player. He's a spark plug, like I said. He's a great clubhouse guy. He's a leadership / chemistry / vibes piece of this team that I think a lot of people feel is invaluable. And he's beloved by the fan base, by the club. He's beloved. And that's why I think perhaps this was a softening the blow move, because they know that. Like, if you were to rank the most beloved Twins in some order, it's Luis Arraez, Byron Buxton. I think Jose Miranda will be one of those guys soon, but it used to be Jose Barrios, Eddie Rosario. Those guys have moved on. Nelson Cruz, they're no longer with the team. But if you look at the current team, Arraez and Buxton, I think, are the fan favorites. You walk around Target Field, the jerseys you see 25s and 2s a lot of times. That's what you see. You see some 26s for Kepler, but I think people have soured on him. Luis Arraez is beloved by almost every corner of this fan base. This front office, I will say, they're not scared to ruffle feathers at all. They are not scared to upset the apple cart whatsoever. My feeling on a Luis Arraez trade, again, this is like very strict. I think it's pretty straightforward for me. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it because of the current roster in place, because of my belief, my cautious belief in Alex Kirilloff, my belief in Jorge Polanco bouncing back and having a healthier season, which maybe is naive, but he's been a durable force for a long time. My belief that, you could sign a left-handed bat in the outfield to replace Luis Arraez, a Michael Brantley type to replace him and open up left field for maybe Larnach, or for that signing, I would say should be a signing. And you're bringing, and most importantly, you'd be bringing back somebody who's helping you in the rotation. That's the most important part of this, because like I said yesterday, they are in a position where they need an impact shortstop and they need an impact starting pitcher. I think more than anything, they need upside at those two spots right now. If you were to look at the whole roster, catcher's just not that big of a deal to me right now. It's just not. I mean, if they sign Christian Vasquez, that's great. I think that would be a nice add. If they sign Austin Hedges, that's fine. I'm not crazy about catcher. I think they need a high upside player at short. They need a high upside player in the rotation. And I think, the not easiest, but the simplest way to do that is by signing Correa and trading for a frontline starter. And I said that yesterday. So I'm not surprised that they're open to moving in Arraez in a deal. Does Luis Arraez have more trade value to the Milwaukee Brewers than Brooks Lee? That's a question you have to ask. If Milwaukee were to come to you, or Miami or whoever, and they said, hey, we're willing to do this, we'll let you decide, Brooks Lee or Luis Arraez, how would you react, just hypothetically, as a fan? Would you rather trade 6+ years of Brooks Lee or 3 seasons in arbitration of Luis Arraez? What would you rather do? Brooks Lee's unproven, but he's a global, top 30 to 50 prospect in baseball, maybe still a shortstop. Luis Arraez, as great as he is, we highlight the leg problems. They came back this year. He's already had knee surgery. He's had knee problems. He's had, hamstring problems. He's had leg issues for how young he is. That's concerning. I also think that the Luis Arraez extension train is one I would jump on as well. It just solely depends on what you're getting in return. If you can package Luis Arraez and Josh Winder for 2 years of Brandon Woodruff, that would be really painful, potentially very rewarding though. And that's something that they would have to consider. Or if you package Luis Arraez and Brooks Lee for Zach Gallen, or Luis Arraez and Trevor Larnach and Josh Winder for Zach Gallen, those types of deals where you're getting an ace in Zach Gallen or a true number one starter in Brandon Woodruff, those are things that this front office is going to consider, and especially going to consider because, as I said before, with Carlos Correa, you're telling him, we're committed to winning. We're committed to making risky moves. We're committed to improving this roster. You could argue like pulling Luis Arraez off this team, who's the team's best, most consistent hitter. How are you improving the team by doing that? We'll see. I mean, this is going to be so interesting. I think the Twins, as always, they have so many different avenues here. Not only at the winter meetings, just in the offseason. They have so many different avenues. They have their hands, I think, are on so many different things, but it all revolves around Correa to me. The Correa domino has to fall for them. They know that. And for Correa, I think the Judge domino has to fall. So I'll be watching closely. Correa watches turned up to 1 million after Turner signed, just by nature in the shortstop market, because it got going, it got moving. But I think I'll really be turning it on when Judge signs. When Judge signs, that's when you really pay attention, because I think in the next 24 to 48 hours following, you could see Correa get signed too, because these teams that lost out will get involved on him and he'll have to make a decision. I think that's absolutely the key here. Could Correa sign before Judge? He could. I see Judge signing first. I see Correa signing shortly after Aaron Judge. That's how I think this is going to go. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. So much going on at the winter meetings. And guess what? We got 2 more days. And Tuesday should be really fun. I hope Tuesday is just as much fun as Monday was in terms of the rumors and the off-season hot stove action just sizzling. Thank you so much for making Locked On Twins your first listen today. For your second listen today, check out Locked On Sports Today. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thanks so much. More winter meetings coverage coming Tuesday. Have a great day and go Twins.